Hi, Maria. Well, just a grueling session for John Corzine here today. He has been testifying for hours. He is still there, as you can see on your screen, testifying before the House Agriculture Committee. He has said that he was just as stunned as anybody to find out that some of the money from customer accounts was missing at MF Global. He has said he simply doesn't know where the money is. But on one issue, the members of Congress have been trying to pin him down, and that is, did he authorize the transfer of any funds out of customer accounts? Now, take a listen to this exchange and see what you make of it.
Did you ever authorize any of your people?
I never intended to authorize anyone.
So you never intended to, but you may have.
If they did, it was a misunderstanding, because there is no intention under any context that I can think of that I was authorizing tapping into segregated funds.
And Maria, members of Congress have come back to this question of, well, what kind of a misunderstanding could be there? One member asked Corzine to paint a scenario where there could have been a misunderstanding about customer segregated funds. And Corzine suggested, well, somebody might have misunderstood me if I said we've just got to fix this on the night that he first found out that there was a real problem with the firm's solvency. So, Maria, some interesting questions here for Corzine. He is still going, and this could go a while yet, still into the evening. A very tough day for John Corzine.
And that comment, we've just got to fix this, I can understand the confusion around that comment.
Well, and that's the question. I mean, Corzine seems to be suggesting, I'm speculating reading into what he's saying here, he seems to be suggesting that there might have been some misunderstanding. He said something, and one of his subordinates then took that to mean, go ahead and do this. The question is there a subordinate here who's being positioned to be a fall guy, potentially, for whatever happened at MF Global? And Corzine will say, I did not intend to authorize anything like removing segregated customer funds from the accounts where they were safely stored. That seems to be where we're headed here, reading between the tea leaves of what he's saying.
Right, and why would anyone assume that he's telling them to do something wrong just because he said, let's fix that, we've got to get this fixed? When you parse through the words, it's just fascinating. Amy, let me get to our guests here, because we have experts talking about this that are following the law and the securities industry. Joining me now is Brad Bondi. He's partner with Cadwalder, and a former SEC enforcement attorney, Andrew Stoltmann, partner with Stoltmann Law Offices. Gentlemen, good to see you on the program. Thanks for joining us. Now, Brad, you point out that the fact that Corzine has no explanation for the missing $1.25 billion is striking. What does it say to you? And then I want to get your take on that comment, we've got to fix this.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting that Governor Corzine was unable to say what happened to the $1.2 billion that's missing. And that's the critical question here. Did he know what happened to it? Should he have known what happened to the $1.2 billion? But it certainly raises questions about the internal controls at MF Global. It raises questions about the accounting. But we're still at the tip of the iceberg, Maria, and I think we have a long way to go before we know really what happened there.
And not only that, but you can't necessarily say it was intentional. I mean, it also could be just stupidity. Andrew, you say that Corzine has an obligation, though, to know what was happening. The buck stops with him.
Absolutely. He's not some low-level compliance manager or branch office manager, let's say. He's the head of the firm. He's a partial owner of the firm. And ultimately, the buck must stop with him. And he can't kind of take this, ostrich with its head in the sand approach to it. He has to know.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, the circumstances here. Here you're talking about the former governor of New Jersey, a former senator, the former chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs. Talk to us about these circumstances, Brad, and where this goes from here.
Well, Maria, I think Governor Corzine did a very good job of laying the foundation for defenses down the road. He said first that he did not know what happened to the $1.2 billion. Secondly, he said he did not intend to do anything improper. But I think everyone is critically focused on that response, whether he, in fact, unintentionally directed something. That's going to be the question. And the third point is he made the point that MF Global is a very complex organization and that he was not involved in all of the daily details of the business. But it's important to note here that a bad bad business decision, if that ultimately is all that happened here, doesn't necessarily equate into legal liability for from Governor Corzine.
Look, I think
there was some surprise that he. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to say, this is something more than a situation where he took a really aggressive bet and he ended up losing a lot of money. I mean, that $1.2 billion kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and he has to somehow explain what happened to that money. And I realize he's already backing off of it, and he's saying, hey, look, I'm not an accountant. I don't know much about the clearing side. But again, he has to know. He's the CEO of the firm.
Well, what's your take? I mean, where is that money? What are the plausible answers here?
I think the number one plausible answer is that they took this money to kind of cover some of the firm's shortfalls. And if they did that, I think they are in a lot of trouble. And I think the senior executives should have, criminal counsel on dial, because I think this is going to become a criminal investigation very, very soon.
Well, Maria, I want to jump to that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I just want to jump.
Brad.
I want to jump to that conclusion that there's criminal misconduct. We have a long way to go here, and I think that there are some explanations for what potentially could have happened to that. We've heard that in the days leading up to MF Global's demise, that there was a lot of problems with account withdrawals and the like, and attempted withdrawals. This could be a question of reconciliations. It could be just a simply sloppy bookkeeping. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone absconded with the funds. So I don't want to jump to that conclusion.
Should Corzine have testified? I mean, what about the Fifth? There was a lot of speculation that he was going to take the Fifth Amendment and we would not hear anything. And instead, we had a very long opening statement, and he actually took these questions. Andrew, was this a mistake for John Corzine?
It was a huge mistake, and I don't think you need to ask anyone else other than Roger Clemens. I mean, this is a classic prosecutorial trap. If they can't prove the underlying potential criminal offense, like absconding with money or securities fraud related charges, it is so easy to prove that you misled Congress. And without Mr. Corzine knowing exactly what the regulators have dug up in discovery so far, I think he took a huge, huge risk by testifying, and I never would have recommended he do that.
All right, what a spectacular story. Gentlemen, thank you very much.